Well, good morning everyone, it's Ian from DIY Home and Gardening. It's a lovely day today, very crisp, but sun's out, so it makes me feel alive and ready to go. At the allotment today, and going to be doing some, well, lifting and dividing of rhubarb. So let's go and have a look, shall we? Well, hasn't this got overgrown during the autumn winter? Believe it or not, this is the rhubarb patch. So unlike a lot of vegetables, rhubarb, or fruits I should say, rhubarb is a perennial. So it stays in the ground all year round and just keeps going year on year, and to be honest can go on for a long time. And you can see it started to sprout and then got frozen by this week's hard weather. So yeah, as you can see, we've got a whole bed of it planted here on the site that is owned by the landowner, but looked after by myself. And really, with rhubarb, you want to look to rejuvenate it sort of every 3 to 5 years, and by that I mean lifting and dividing to keep the crowns nice and healthy and vigorous. So it does look a mess, but it's not too bad. The reason I know it's not going to be too bad is actually in the summer and the autumn time, after we'd finished doing the pick, which was about the June-July period, so last pick of the rhubarb, I did a big layer of manure over the whole of the bed, gave it a good weed of all the perennial stuff, and so all of this it's only going to be surface bits of grass that have predominantly come out of the manure, which you can see there anyway. So first things first, let's clear a little patch and have a look as to where to begin. My thought is that I will only probably lift a section this year, split that up, replant, and then do the others over the next couple of years probably. This area here hasn't been touched for probably about 7 or 8 years, so well past being done. So let's get started. Right, okay, so that is all the rhubarb dug out of that first 1.5 meters, giving it a good fork over, removed all the obvious rubbish, and added in a couple of buckets of the homemade compost. Now we move on to splitting. So I thought I'd start with this piece actually, as it's fairly easy to look at. So despite the odd bit of grass that's still in here, you can see that there's some obvious division that's happened. We've got this piece here that's sprouted, so you can see that leaf there. So these are the eyes, and the main part is called the crown. So let's try and remove some of this. So we got the crown here, we got the root zone around here, which is this thick tuberous stuff. Some of these you can literally tear apart, especially if they're old like that, and that gives us one piece of root with one eye there and one eye there. So that's a section, and then you're left with kind of this obvious dead piece that has no value at all, which again might be able to snap it off. You can see that was a zone last year. I think that's a little eye down there, but probably not worth worrying about. So we can remove that. And then when we look at this section, again you can see there's another clear piece here which we could take off as one lump, and then that piece there, if we cut through with a spade, and then that gives us another 4-5 eyes worth there. So we'll just grab a spade. Rhubarb does form a hard stem to it, so it is quite tough. Let's see if we can do it. Oh yeah, wasn't so bad. So then when we look at this, you can see that that's really old. You know, it's that main section there. So the idea is that we try and remove some of this old spent rotten material. If we can do it by hand, great. If not, use a spade and just try and remove some of the soil to leave us with fairly clean sections to replant, as you don't want to be digging a massive hole for essentially dead root. So first thing, I'll tackle this one, clean it up and show you what should be left with. Right, that's the first one done. Might look a lot harsh, but that is what I want to be left with. So we've got a nice clean zone there with multiple eyes, cut through the bottom layer of all the fat tuberous root, which actually only serves as anchorage, and essentially out of that one section left with 3 pieces, all with, as I say, multiple eyes to the root zone. Done another section there, and then obviously tackling these ones as well. And so it depends how you want to do it, as to whether you try and split it first or go through the bottom and just cut off all this entangled mess first. Quite often you find if you go through the bottom first, then actually it then separates out into its relative sections. So let's have a look at that now. Let's see whether that pan out. So just looking, so you're below the obvious top growth, cut that down. Let's try and get that. Yeah, so that cuts away pretty easily, and then you'll probably find with 1 foot on there, that separates out quite nicely, and then you can see you've got some obvious dead sections. Pull those off, and that is pretty much ready. Just a bit of cleaning up, and then that'll be ready to go back into the ground again. So it's quite easy once you've got them out of the ground. Right, so onto the big section. Find ourselves in a position where just physically haven't got enough strength to be able to separate the root apart. What do? Right, well, we've got one spade stuck, and so the easiest way around it is to put another spade or fork in next to it. So you get that in like so, then you can simply lever the two apart. Let's try and do this. There we are. And so that separates your clump nice and simply. Don't need that second person. Job done. And we get rid of all of this lump of rubbish in one go. Okay, so after 40 minutes of relatively hard graft, got a nice clean area there, free from the original root zones. I've got that pile there, which is basically all my rubbish. As you can see, it's all the really old root zone and old eye sections. I've set out what is to be 6 new clumps, which well, as you can see already, you know, they got some really good vigour in them. They've all got multiple eyes forming, which is essentially multiple shoots. And then I'm left with this lot here. So where the allotments are going to be moving up there, I'm going to take a few sections, pot them for the time being, and then they can be transplanted and put in the new allotment area. And this lot here, again, they're going to be taken away, potted, and they're going to go to the community gardens for them to grow on. So yeah, out of, I say, essentially a 1.5 metre section, we've probably ended up with a good 20 pieces of root. I said at the beginning that you want to only do the lifting and dividing every sort of 3 to 5 years. So this is all I'm doing for this year. I will weed the bed, but I'm not going to lift any more, and the reason being is that for this year I don't want to be harvesting anything from these new crowns, because I want them to get established, and so I'll only be harvesting rhubarb from that area there. So maintain that, and then next year we can then do the next 1.5 meters, in which time this section will be ready for cropping. And so yeah, we're doing it on a rotational basis, and so really from now on it'll be done on a 3-year cycle, doing 1.5 meters each year. So that is it done in terms of the hard work, just literally to plant these now. Right, so having added in some fresh compost, time to do planting. So dig your hole, and you want to position the root or rhizome so it's in the ground but with these eyes level or just above the soil level. So essentially, so you're not going to end up with loads of water sitting in the top, because whilst rhubarb like being on the moist side, they don't like being wet into the crown itself. So plant so we're just above or level with the finishing height of the soil. Let's get the rest done. So that is all planted, and just finished off with a nice layer of some more compost to the top. So the important thing now is just to make sure that come this summer period they don't dry out. But yeah, that is the lifting and dividing of rhubarb done. So that is another section done up at the allotment. You can see the difference from the newly planted to essentially the bed of weeds behind. Said right at the beginning of this video how good rhubarb is, yeah, especially as it's a nice perennial crop. So good for well, for eating, isn't it? It's amazing. Love it in a crumble or a pie. But yeah, it's really easy to grow, needs moist soil, but doesn't want to be sitting wet. Other than that, it's easy. Just give it some food at start and end of the season, and well, it just rewards you. So anyway, that's the end of the video. Hope you found it interesting. If you've got any questions, then obviously please send them to me. Do my best to answer them for you. If you like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on the future videos. And I always say it, but there is certainly a lot to be said for being outside, especially when it's a glorious January day like today. So till next time, mind how you go. See you soon.